How to manifest the love of your life? Well, in order to do that, the very first thing that we can look at is what is manifestation itself, right? Like, what is manifestation? Now, people have so many different ideas around this topic. Some people think that, hey, manifestation is the ability to control your reality, right? And manifestation is this ability to attract what I want, and it's this ability to bend reality with my thoughts. But actually, that is not what manifestation is. It's not the ability to control your reality. It is not attracting what you want. It is not bending reality to my thoughts. Well, then what exactly is manifestation? Well, manifestation is simply the relationship between your internal state, your frequency, and the reality that you're experiencing. Let me give you a very simple example to understand this relationship. See, there's a relationship between the TV remote and the TV, right? With the remote, you send a signal, you send a frequency to the TV, and the channel changes. And then, whatever channel you're on, that is what you're experiencing. Like, you could be watching a horror movie, you could be watching a comedy, an action thriller, whatever, right? And if you don't like the channel, you can change the channel for which you have the remote. Now, when people think about how can I manifest, right? When people ask this question, how can I manifest? How can I manifest this? How can I manifest that? Like, how can I manifest, right? How do I manifest? Well, that's actually also the wrong question to ask, because you're manifesting all the time. It's like somebody asking, how can I breathe? Right? Because you're breathing all the time. It's just happening on autopilot. As I said, manifestation is simply the relationship between your internal state and your external reality, your frequency and the reality, right? And there's a resonance between the two. Now, the right question is, how do I manifest my desired reality? The reason people are asking this question is they're often manifesting something undesirable. They're getting things that they don't really want rather than getting things that they do want. So this is the question that you really want to ask yourself, which is that, how do I manifest my desired reality? In order to understand how to manifest your desired reality, let's give a new definition for manifestation. So, manifestation is your ability to control your internal state independent of the external reality. Now, what do I mean? It means that the remote control is independent of the channel that you're watching on the TV, right? As long as the input from the remote is linked to the channel on the TV, you're not free. Now, what do I mean by this? You see, often we are so emotionally dependent on the reality to validate us that we are completely tethered to the external experience. But in order to manifest your desired reality, you need to break free from your emotional dependence on the external reality. Well, now, if that is the case, then let's understand what are the different components of the internal state or frequency, right? If you want to, control your remote, so you need to know how to use it, right? So how can we not be like monkeys who just randomly, smashing these buttons? And how can we actually know how to use this remote? So in order to actually understand that, so we need to have mastery over our internal state or frequency. So here are some of the components of your internal state or frequency. Like, what is a part of the input signal that you are sending to the universe, right? So the very first thing are your thoughts, right? So what kind of thoughts are you currently having? That's a part of the input signal that you're giving to the universe, right? What are your beliefs? That's another major component of the input signal that you're giving to the universe. What is your emotional conviction? Like, you strongly feel, like, what is it that you strongly feel is going to actually happen? Like, this is why Like, some people do affirmations, and for some people it works and for some people it doesn't work. Like, why is that? It's because of the degree of emotional conviction you have on the thing that you're doing. Like, when you have the conviction that something's going to happen, that's the input signal. And when you don't have that conviction, that's a different input signal. Attention, like, where do you place your attention? There's a huge difference between the version of you who actually has what you want and the version who doesn't have what you want, and they're both placing their attention in very different spaces. And the last two parts are identity and action. Like, what is your self concept? Like, if your identity is that I'm a lonely guy, like I'm a lonely person, I'm alone, like, so that's also part of the input signal, and the reality always matches this input signal. It always shows us a movie or a story that matches this input signal, right? So, how can you actually manifest the love of your life? See, in order to manifest the love of your life, you need to go from your old self to the new self. Like, you need to shift your internal frequency, because the old self's frequency, right, is having all these thoughts which are like tethered to this old idea. Like, the old self, for example, has beliefs like relationships don't work out, or people keep fighting, or like you might have beliefs like people in relationships have jealousy and possessiveness, or it's very difficult to find the right partner. So there's all these kinds of counterproductive beliefs that you have. And what are the emotions that your old self has? Well, the emotions that your old self has is like the emotions of loneliness, right? The emotions of being alone, the emotions of lack, of worry, of like, not feeling good, right? Not being very enthusiastic. What are the different kind of thoughts that your old self has? Well, your old self is thinking, should I really go there? Should I do this? And like, the old self is really focused on a lot of these thoughts, as compared to the new self, like the version of you that already has the partner. Well, the thoughts are around, shall we go here to eat cake? Or shall we eat ice cream over here? Shall we do all these fun things? Right? So the new version has a very different set of thought patterns as compared to the old version. And when you, as long as you're having the thought patterns of the old self, the beliefs of the old self, the emotions of the old self, placing attention in all the wrong places. Like, for example, when you're alone, you might be on Tinder, but when you have a partner, well, you're just going to be hanging out with your partner, and your attention is going to be on the present moment, right? Doing all kinds of fun stuff with the person that you really love. And your identity is also very different. In your new self, your identity is somebody who's already in a very loving relationship, right? And that's your identity as the new self. But your old self's identity is, hey, I'm alone. And so, as long as you're resonating at the frequency of this old self, when this is your input signal, that's the reality that you're going to keep experiencing. Like, the universe just going to keep reflecting that back to you again and again and again. And which is where the definition comes in, which is that manifestation is essentially your ability to have absolute control over your internal state, independent of the external state. Because as long as you're dependent on the external state, you're just gonna keep resonating with your old self, keep looking outside and feeling lonely, and keep feeling like, oh, this is hard and this is difficult and this doesn't work out and this is happening, right? And in order to actually attract the partner, you need to think about resonating with that version of you who already has the partner, right? So now, how can you actually shift your internal state or frequency? How can you do this? Well, the very first exercise that you can do is take a clean sheet of paper and write down like all the possible unpleasant or bad things that could happen in a relationship. I know it's a little bit counterintuitive, but if you do this, trust me, like a lot of things will change in your life. So as I said, take a clean sheet of paper and write down everything that could possibly be unpleasant or bad in a relationship, right? And once you do this, like it could be anything, you know, it could be things uh, like it's difficult to find a partner, it's difficult to be in a relationship, like people in relationships fight, I might lose my time, I might lose my freedom, I might lose my independence, it might be like a lot of money involved, or like, you know, for going out on dates or this or that, like just everything that comes to your mind, because all of these, you know, counterproductive beliefs are actually keeping you from getting what you really want, right? And once you've done this exercise, right, if you need to pause the video, just pause it now, finish this exercise and come back, or you can do it after this video is done, but do this exercise, right? Once you've done that, now take every point that you've written and flip it 180 degrees, right, into a possibility statement. I'll give you an example. Suppose you wrote down that it's very difficult to find a partner, like, you know, I need to do things that I don't naturally enjoy, like I have to, you know, go to a, like, you know, a place to party with like random people, I have to be awake in the middle of the night just in the hopes of like finding my potential partner, right? So now the way you would convert that is into, hey, it's possible that I could meet this person living in the most harmonious way, just doing the things that I naturally enjoy doing. Or like you might think that like one of the problems that you saw, like a potential problem you saw in a relationship, is that it might consume too much time, like, you know, it might take a lot of your energy. And the way you would convert that, for example, would be, hey, it's possible that there could be huge synergies in our relationship. It's possible that both of us are so aligned that when we come together, we're able to like amplify our energy and get way better results in life. All right. And once you've done that, once you've taken like all the points that you've made and converted each and every one of them, you will experience a dramatic shift in your energy inside. Like you will feel emotional release, where you will actually start feeling really enthusiastic about finding this person that you wrote about in this piece of paper, right? Now, the next second exercise that I want to share with you guys is this exercise of shifting your emotional energy, like emotionally shifting your frequency, right? How can we do this? Like, how can you go from this lonely, alone, sad self to the self that is already in love, right? Because, so what to do? Like, you know, if you don't have this partner, but as long as you're resonating in lack, you're only going to attract more lack in your life. So how can you shift this from lack to love, right? And a really nice way to do this is by writing love letters to the divine feminine or masculine, whichever one you want to attract in your life, right? Think of this as a divine entity who is just everywhere, and just start writing love letters, like, you know, express all of your feelings, your emotions, your love, your desires, everything, right? Just fall in love, be in love today, right? And as you write these letters, like, this is already your partner, like you're deeply in love with this person and you're just pouring your heart out into this piece of paper. And as you start writing these letters, what you will notice is your frequency will change. Like, you will no longer feel lack anymore, but on the inside you will be resonating on the frequency of love. And that's about it from me for today. But if you have any questions on anything that you've watched till now, let me know in the comments below and I will address those questions in the future videos. All right, see you guys in the next one.